The diplomatic station orbiting Krath Prime had seen many species pass through its corridors, but Aurora knew humans still made most aliens uncomfortable. She'd grown used to the way the Velkar merchants would stiffen when she approached, how the crystalline Jedi would dim their bioluminescence in her presence. It was the price of being an apex predator among the stars. Jackson, her security partner, found it amusing. "They think we're going to eat them," he'd joke, flashing that distinctly human grin that showed too many teeth for comfort. Today, Aurora was escorting a delegation of Krath younglings through the market sector, a routine cultural exchange. The Krath were impressive creatures, standing nearly 8 feet tall with sleek fur that shifted from silver to black depending on their mood. They were predators too, proud hunters from a world where strength determined everything. The adult Krath had made it clear they didn't need human protection, but protocol was protocol. The youngest of the group, a cub named Thresh who barely reached Aurora's shoulder, had been fascinated by her all morning. His large amber eyes tracked her movements with an intensity that reminded her of the big cats from Earth. "Human Aurora," Thresh chittered in broken galactic common. "Is it true your species hunted megafauna with only stones and sticks?" Aurora smiled gently. "A long time ago, yes. We've evolved since then. But you remember the hunt? In your blood?" Before she could answer, chaos erupted. A cargo loader malfunctioned, its anti-gravity field flickering. A container of dense ore, easily 3 tons, broke free from its moorings. Time seemed to slow as Aurora's predator brain calculated trajectories. The container was falling. Thresh stood directly beneath it. She moved. Aurora didn't think, didn't hesitate. Her body remembered a million years of pursuing prey across African savannas, of running down animals larger and faster than herself through sheer endurance and will. She crashed into Thresh, wrapping her arms around the cub and rolling them both clear, almost clear. The container's edge caught her leg and Aurora heard the snap before she felt it. Then the pain hit, a white-hot spike that drove up her spine and exploded behind her eyes. She'd broken bones before, but this was different. This was bad. Thresh scrambled away, unhurt but terrified. The adult Krath rushed forward, surrounding their young. Aurora tried to stand, tried to wave them off, tried to say she was fine. Instead, a sound tore from her throat that she didn't recognize, a guttural scream of agony that echoed through the marketplace. The station fell silent. Every species in that marketplace stopped. The Velkar froze mid-transaction. The Jedi dimmed to near darkness. Even the omnipresent hum of the station's system seemed to quiet. Then Jackson arrived, and Aurora saw something she'd never seen before in 10 years of partnership. He was running, but not like he ran during training exercises or emergency drills. This was different. This was primal. His eyes had gone cold, his face expressionless in a way that was somehow more terrifying than rage. When he saw Aurora on the ground, saw the unnatural angle of her leg, something shifted in him. Jackson tilted his head back and roared. It wasn't a scream or a shout. It was the sound of a species that had climbed to the top of the food chain on a death world and stayed there. It was the cry of persistence hunters who had chased prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. It was the voice of creatures who had looked at mammoths, saber-toothed cats, and dire wolves and decided they were food. The sound echoed through the station's corridors, primal and terrible and utterly inhuman. The adult Krath, proud predators who had never backed down from a challenge, took an involuntary step back. Their fur rippled with patterns of submission, something Aurora had never seen from their species. Around the marketplace, aliens who had barely noticed the humans before pressed themselves against walls, instinctively seeking escape routes. Jackson dropped to his knees beside Aurora, and just like that, the predator was gone. His hands were gentle as they assessed her injury, his voice soft as he called for medical assistance. "Stupid," he muttered, but there was no anger in it. "Saving Krath cubs now? That's what you're doing with your Tuesday?" Aurora managed a weak laugh that turned into a gasp. "Protocol. Damn protocol." But his eyes were proud. The Krath delegation leader approached slowly, his movements careful and deliberate. He knelt, bringing his massive head level with Aurora's. When he spoke, his voice carried a note she'd never heard from his species before. Respect. "Human Aurora," he said. "You put yourself between danger and our cub. You took the wound meant for him. Anyone would have—" "No," the Krath interrupted firmly. "They would not. We are predators. We understand survival, but you—" He paused, searching for words. "You chose injury to prevent it in another. And your packmate—" He glanced at Jackson with something like awe. "We thought humans were dangerous because you are predators. We were wrong. You are dangerous because you are protectors. There is no force in the universe more terrible than that." Medical teams arrived, and Aurora was loaded onto a stretcher. As the painkillers began to work, she caught sight of Thresh watching from behind his parents. The cub touched his chest in a crath gesture of respect, then mimicked the gesture toward Jackson. Later, after the surgery and the regeneration treatments, Jackson sat by her bed in the medical bay. "You know the whole station's talking about us now," he said. "Apparently, we're the scariest species in the sector." Aurora smiled. "We were already the scariest species." "Yeah, but now they know why." He leaned back in his chair. "It's not the teeth or the endurance or the fact that we come from a world that's constantly trying to kill us. It's that we'll throw ourselves in front of a 3-ton container for a kid that isn't even our species." "Is that really scarier?" Jackson looked at her, and in his eyes she saw the answer. A predator could be avoided, outrun, or placated, but something that would fight beyond reason, beyond survival instinct, beyond logic itself to protect another, that was something else entirely. "Yes'm," he said softly. "That's terrifying." Outside the medical bay window, the stars wheeled in their eternal dance. And somewhere in that vast galaxy, word was spreading about the humans, those strange, persistent, impossible creatures who would stand between danger and the helpless, who would roar louder than pain itself, who would make even predators bow their heads in respect, not because they were the strongest or the fastest or the most advanced, but because when a cub screamed in pain, a human had answered with a roar that shook the very foundations of the station, reminding the galaxy of a simple truth: humanity protects its own. And sometimes in their infinite, inexplicable compassion, they decided that their own meant anyone who needed protecting. That, more than any weapon or warship, was what made them truly dangerous.